So my second tip is for the transitions. Sac passe YouTube, and today we're gonna be talking about how to edit a video. Drum roll please. Tip number one is find your input and output. So it doesn't matter what editing software you're using. If it's a free software, if it's a paid software, all the softwares I've used in the past, all of them have an input and output. So the first thing you should do when you open your video editing software, I know everything could look so confusing. There's a lot of buttons, there's a lot of tabs, there's so much going on. But the first thing you do, look to see where the input and the output button is, because the input and the output button is gonna allow you to create the whole video. You can create a whole movie, a whole commercial, a music video. You could create anything you want if you could master just using the input and the output. Usually when you use a keyboard, the input will be the letter I and the output will be the letter O. If those letters don't work, it's usually in this side. Here's an example of it. It's usually in the left side of the screen. When you go down under the screen, you usually have your input and output there. It's basically having a clip and choosing to put the beginning part of the clip and choosing which part of the clip you want to finish with. So the beginning and the ending. Editing as a whole is basically taking a whole bunch of clips and picking the inputs and outputs of every clip and then putting it in the timeline and then creating a whole video out of that. Hopefully it makes sense. So once you found your input and once you found your output, you put that clip in the timeline. That's where all the important things go. Once something is in your timeline, that means it will appear in your main video. So be careful what you put in your timeline. Also, undo is your best friend. If you do something wrong and you put the wrong clip, just press undo. So the input and output, once you master that, believe me my friends, you will become a master when it comes to editing. My second tip is for the transitions. Okay, I don't know why the video just censored me, but I'm trying to say forget. I'm not trying to say I'm trying to say forget the transition. Yeah, that's right. Forget the transitions. I remember when I edit my first video, I started adding a whole bunch of transitions after transitions because transitions look so appealing, right? When you open up your software, you start seeing all of those transitions, the wipes and all of the spinning animation. As you can see, you have this one and then you have that one. You know, avoid all of these transitions at all costs. Like I told you in the last slide, the goal is to master your inputs and your output. When you use transitions, what happens is it makes your video look unprofessional. The only time you can use transitions is if you're doing a slideshow, if it's like a photo, you're editing a bunch of photos, you know, you could use transitions. If you have to use a transition, beside cutting, the only transition I would recommend you to use, there's three of them. It's cross dissolve, dip to white, and dip to black. Here's an example of cross dissolve. This is an example of cross dissolve. Now dip to white and dip to black. As you can see, these transitions don't look like much, and that's the reason why you should use them. The whole point when it comes to editing, the goal is for your video not to look like it's been edited. If somebody edited a video and you could kind of tell as soon as it started, that means the person didn't really do that much of a good job. When you're editing a video, it's supposed to look seamless. It's supposed to just flow. Think about all of the movies, the shows that you've watched. Everything just flows. When you're watching a movie, there's a lot of cuts. They do a lot of input and output. That's all they do. They rarely use transitions. And when they do use transitions, they always use the fade to black. They always use fading away. It's like transitions that you don't even notice. A lot of times people think editing is effects. Editing is not effects, right? You're supposed to move from one scene to the other. If you want to cut something out, make sure when you're cutting something that it doesn't seem obvious, all right? Unless you want it to. The only time your cuts are supposed to be all jumpy is if you're doing a music video or if you're cutting to the beat, if you're trying to make it exciting. But other than that, always trying to make your cuts flow like a straight line. Don't edit something and then the next scene your screen start flipping. Stick with your regular cutting. Look for the clip that you want to add. Press I, press O, and then you add it to the timeline. Once you start mastering cutting, then you could go into adding those 2 transitions that I told you guys about. So my last tip to you guys is to have fun. Okay, have fun. Your first video should be a fun video. I do not recommend you to post your first video online. When you edit your first video, people will notice. Make your first video a fun video. The best thing I can tell you is if you have a favorite music video, download it online. If you have a favorite TV show, you could download it. One of my favorite shows is The Office, and I like Martin. So what you would do, you go online, you find your favorite movie, you find your favorite show, you download clips from those shows, and then you create your own video out of that. You do that like 3 times. You could share that video with your significant other, you could share it with your best friend, with your boyfriend, with your husband, your wife. Your first video, share that video with them and ask them what they think. Then you could play around with it. Once you edit your first, second, third video, then that's when your 4th video could be a serious video. That's when you could post your 4th video online. Try to play around with it. Add different things on the timeline. Try to see different things that you can do. You know, once you play around with it, that's when you can start editing for real. If you guys have any questions at all, feel free to message me or leave a comment below. You know, I really enjoy editing. I like talking about this topic. My name is Edgy, and I'm out.
Check, check, check. Check, check. Check.
Sac passe to all my go-getters. I know doing this this quarantine. 11 points to bring you.